think the volatility month to month and quarter to quarter is not going to be as much of a big factor. And that's one of the reasons the market are doing fine today.
And that's what was going to lead me to the second question of whether or not, we heard these reports from Asia overnight. Well, investors are anticipating the jobs report to show losses, but the right trend. Is that enough to keep the world markets higher today?
No, not just that. I think the fact that the Greece was able to get, and Spain were able to get actually $10 billion down and convince the investors, albeit at north of 6.25% coupon, double the Germany, but they got it done, and that's very important. That means that there is really money on the side to be able to come into these markets. You've seen that the hedge funds have actually eased off a little, and the real money have come in, and so as was highlighted earlier in the show, it's all about essentially awards are counting more than the actual dollars.
Real quick, I only have a few seconds. We're going to talk about that bond offering a little later on as well. We need to create 300,000 jobs over several months, years, really, to get the unemployment rate down to 5-6%. So even though the trend could be improving, we're not anywhere close to that number yet.
No, and I think the China issue is comes back because that has been the really engine of the global growth, and we keep seeing that on one side of the mouth they're talking about growth, and on the other they're talking about the bank risks, and we're going to keep getting that it's going to be it's not going to be a straight line. Nobody is expecting a straight line.
Well, and you're just leading us into our next story here about China growth. So thank you very much, Ron. Ron is going to be with us again throughout the morning. In the meantime, here's the story out of China today. China promising strong growth again this year. The Prime Minister Wen Jiabao saying his growth target is 8% this year, and he says stimulus spending and easy credit will continue to keep the Chinese economy growing. But he did say the government would take steps to fight inflation. As for the currency, he says yuan will remain basically stable. All right, now tossing it back to Ashley in Berlin.
All right, Jenna, thank you very much. We are here in Berlin. We're later on today in this building right behind me. The Greek Prime Minister, George Papandreou, will be meeting with German Chancellor Angela Merkel to talk about the Greek budget deficit and the crisis. No money on the table, according to the German economic minister. Perhaps more an effort of political support and moral support, but no money, no fiscal support. And the Germans want Greece to prove to the European Union that they can indeed make these tough and deep budget cuts. We shall see. But in the meantime, we have seen more violence in Greece overnight and today, with protesters upset about some of these very severe measures, if you like, to try and reduce their budget deficit. So the question is, what will the Greeks get out of this meeting today? Well, we'll find out later on. But let's go back to London now. My colleague Michael Wilson in the warm and toasty studio right overlooking Westminster. Michael, take it away.
I'm just keeping your seat warm for you, Ashley. It is very nice and warm in here. Beautiful day in London. And you're in for a fascinating day too, but no doubt we'll hear all about that from you later on. Now, time for the latest on the international markets, and we have Fox Business contributor Katie Sargent live in Singapore. Katie.
Well, good morning to you, Michael, and to Ashley and everyone else. This morning, we had a pretty good day here in Asia. Most of the markets finishing in the green on optimism over the monthly jobs report out of the U.S. I say optimism because they'll be looking for any sign deep in that report that there's some indication of recovery in the U.S. market. It was a very strong day for Tokyo, where the Nikkei added 2.2%. That's after the Nikkei Business Daily reported that the Bank of Japan will discuss further steps to ease monetary policy there at its meeting later this month. The Kospi in South Korea added 1%, though trading there remains light ahead of that jobs report. The Hang Seng in Hong Kong was up 1% as well. One stock that did particularly well was exporter Li and Fung, outperforming the market. It was up 2.2%. It recently signed a sourcing agreement with Walmart, so news on retail sales showing strong retail sales in the U.S. Certainly good news for Li and Fung. And the Shanghai Composite regained a little bit of what it lost yesterday. Today it was up about 0.3%. Down under in Australia, the Australian unit of drug maker Merck losing a round in the battle over the drug Vioxx. A judge in Melbourne ruling that the painkiller seller doubled the risk of heart attack and was not fit for sale. He awarded 288,000 Australian dollars to a man who claimed the drug caused him to have a heart attack. That might not sound like much, but it certainly paves the way for hundreds of similar claims in Australia. That's it for now from Singapore. Back to you in London.
Katie, thanks very much indeed. Let's continue with the international markets. And as both Katie and Jenna have been saying, obviously everything really dependent upon the outcome of the all-important jobs figures. Our time, 1:30 today. Everybody's looking towards that. A bit of fog, well, rather blizzards, I suppose, as to the interpretation of that. But let's have a look at the markets in any case here. And as far as the FTSE CAC and the DAX in Frankfurt are concerned, up really. I suspect what they feel in London here is a bit of overnight help from the Far Eastern markets and that little bounce on Wall Street last night as well. But let's remind everybody, 6 days of uninterrupted gains is no bad thing. And just chuck in one other thing about this, the European benchmark up 61% since 2009. So that's how the markets have recovered. Now, on to news from here. Britain's banker bonus super tax will reap more than £2.5 billion. That's $3.75 billion, about 3 times more than Britain's Chancellor Alistair Darling predicted when he imposed a payroll tax on all bonuses above $37,000. The tax windfall could give Britain's Labour government an unexpectedly large amount to spend ahead of the UK general election. Mr Darling is likely to use the extra money to target youth unemployment and selected so-called industries of the future, 2 key themes in the Labour Party's election manifesto. One of the UK's leading inward investors and a former strong supporter of Euro membership is now saying that weakness of pound sterling and Britain's currency independence is a blessing. The chairman of Komatsu, makers of construction and mining equipment, told the Financial Times that weakness of sterling against the euro will benefit his export efforts when demand for Komatsu's products starts to recover next year. See you later.
Today, it won't work. Elaine Chao on what's wrong with Obama's unemployment plan. Then, why Oscar could mean gold for media stocks. Plus, this bites. We expose the latest restaurant tax. Today, don't miss a minute. It's all on Varney & Company.
Somewhere in America, there's a home by the sea, powered by the wind on the plains. There's a hospital where technology has a healing touch. There's a factory giving old industries new life. And there's a train that got a whole city moving again. Somewhere in America, the toughest questions are answered every day. Because somewhere in America, more than 60,000 people spend every day answering them. Siemens answers.
I am a non-attorney spokesperson. Were you or a loved one diagnosed with lung cancer? If so, we urge you to call the number on your screen now for a free legal consultation. Some lung cancers, along with the other cancers listed on your screen, may be linked to asbestos exposure. Exposure to asbestos in mills, factories, or while working as a plumber, electrician, plasterer, maintenance worker, or janitor may have put you at risk. In addition, because asbestos was widely used on ships, those working in shipyards, including Navy veterans, may have also been exposed. Asbestos has been used in many commercial applications, including insulation, fireproof fabrics, automotive parts, building materials, and small kitchen appliances. If you or a loved one was diagnosed with lung cancer or another asbestos-related cancer, call now for a free legal consultation. You may be entitled to compensation. Call 1-800-839-1853. Again, that's 1-800-839-1853.
The glitz, the glamour, the gunshots. Catch the best breaks, burns, and blends of the year. It's time for Dave Ramsey's 3rd Annual Plasty Awards. Find out how these guys dug out of debt and cash in on their advice. Don't miss Dave Ramsey's 3rd Annual Plasty Awards.
And welcome back, everybody. I'm Ashley Webster in Berlin, where later today the Prime Minister of Greece, George Papandreou, will come here to this building behind me and meet with German Chancellor Angela Merkel to talk about Greece's ongoing budget problems. We've already been told by the German economic minister, forget any money. There's not 1 cent on the table. So the question is, what will Greece get out of this meeting? Well, really, it's looking for more political and moral support. It'll be interesting to see what they say after this meeting today in Berlin. Many eyes trying to find out on this meeting and trying to find out exactly what's the next move for Greece. Jenna, back to you.
All right, Ashley, from Berlin back to Chile now. A major aftershock has just hit Chile. The 6.3 reading is preliminary, but enough to send people back into the streets of Concepcion, right near the epicenter of this quake. In the meantime, Chile is lowering the death toll from last weekend's earthquake to 279. That was revised down from about 800 victims. Sources telling Reuters the previous figure included lots of missing people, so apparently some of these missing people are now found. Well, a gunman opens fire at the Pentagon, injuring 2 officers. The attack taking place shortly before 7 p.m. last night at a very crowded Pentagon subway entrance. Police returned fire, hitting the gunman, who later died. The wounded officer is suffering from non-life-threatening injuries, and authorities believe the shooter was angry at the military and didn't believe the facts about 9/11. New York Governor David Paterson's top aide calling an urgent staff meeting for today. No word on what the afternoon meeting will be about, but there have been calls for Paterson's resignation, and they've been growing louder ever since accusations that he and state troopers sought to influence witness testimony in a domestic violence dispute involving his very close aide. 2 high-level officials have already resigned because of this scandal. We're going to move on now to the Fox Business Morning Radar. This is when we give you a quick look at 3 companies to watch for the day. And this morning, we're going to start off with Marvel Technology. That's not the comic book company. It's the Marvel Technology side, right? The stock falling 7% after hours. Earnings of 40 cents a share, beating the estimate of 37, but revenue of $842 million, right in line. And not enough to satisfy investors. The chipmaker stock already rising more than 150% in the past 52 weeks. Shares of the Cooper companies falling 4%. First quarter earnings of 49 cents a share, coming in 3 cents short of the forecast. The company also lowering its full year outlook. Cooper makes contact lenses. And we're going to end with Dynamic Materials, one of the best tickers out there. The ticker symbol is BOOM. The stock is down 9% after hours. Fourth quarter earnings down 81% to 8 cents a share, a nickel less than what analysts were expecting. The company provides, well, you probably already got this, explosion welded clad metal plates, specifically. Boom. Michael Wilson joins us from London now with a look at the overseas markets. Michael, good morning to you for the first time, by the way.
Well, good morning to you, Jenna. Very nice to be back. I love that boom. I will take that away as a nice memory of today over the weekend. Thanks so much for that. All right, let's check the European market, shall we? And as I say, most things. Basically looking forward ahead to the US employment or unemployment figures out at our lunchtime, your morning, and really wondering exactly what effect those blizzards had during February and whether you can actually take a realistic guess at what's actually going on in the economy. Most people, I think, feeling that the US is on the way to recovery. Well, with us today is Elisa Bayer, Director of Private Clients at Charles Stanley. Elisa, good morning. We're just talking about noticing the strength of the markets despite Greece and everything. I mean, and I would actually say I noticed today that, or rather March the 9th, the European benchmark up 61% on where it was in March 2009. What's going on, do you think?
Well, we had a much better 2009 than everybody anticipated. Probably from about March, April 09, markets started to pick up. I think because the last quarter 08 and first quarter 09 were so bad. But since then, we've had a very strong performance. As you got into 210 first quarter, actually, I would say most people were expecting either a pause or markets to fall off. Whereas the last 2 or 3 weeks, despite what is going on, and if you look at Greece and the currency and everything, markets have been incredibly strong. And most European indices are, in fact, breaking new highs.
Very interesting too. Now we've seen the PRU, or the prudential, I suppose, as international investors would call it, and the fact that they need a rights issue for this amazing expansion into Asia. Will they get it, do you think? I mean, will investors go along with Prudential's plans?
Well, a 35 billion bite is huge, is the answer. It's the second time round to go for AIG's assets. It will be 66% of their earnings outside of the UK.